Jen and Neha, you have both coached folks in all stages of their careers. And so, what are some relational factors that you've seen current job seekers considering when gauging the diversity of a company that they're applying to, or just the company culture as a whole, especially now that we live in a space where people are very transparent about their experiences at companies, whether it's good or bad? How have you seen that kind of change in the current landscape?
Yeah, I've actually worked in the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion space for quite a number of years now. So it's been really interesting to see the patterns from kind of being like a fringe, very little talked about activity to thrust into the mainstream
Yeah.
and different phases of, fatigue, diversity fatigue, as they call it, but continued urgency, importance, and collective awakening. I will say that collectively, what I'm seeing is that from that immediate lurch, like, oh god, this is important. It means we're starting to become a lot more nuanced at it. I used to see, maybe even just a couple of years back, like, oh, I really want to work for a company with a woman CEO. I really want to work for a company that has a head of DEI. Is a signal to me. And it turns out those are actually pretty surface signals.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have, let's say, like a figurehead or someone who, just because they are part of a certain demographic doesn't mean they're actually advocating for others, tearing down the systemic inequalities, which is part of DEI work.
Yep.
So if it's not just like the person and what they look like, what does it actually mean? Very much relevant to this whole conversation, the proof is in the pudding. It has to be the experiences. It has to be the approach the company is taking to really invest in the hiring process, which is a direct correlation to what they're going to do for the employee process. If they are actually taking the time to write inclusive job descriptions, if they are training their hiring managers, if they provide feedback, an opportunity for candidates to give feedback, they are actually running, very thoughtful, detailed, provide documentation, all of this is an indicator they're doing that with new hires, then with employees. And all of that means, hiring for diversity, managing, employees from underrepresented backgrounds, it's actually not that crazy difficult or wildly deviant from just doing that in general for everyone.
Agreed.
It's that by paying attention to the experiences of underrepresented groups, you get to learn very quickly where your current systems are failing. So what that means is whatever, performance management, interview, referral process, whatever it's bad at, it's the people from underrepresented backgrounds who are going to feel it first and tell you about it.
Yep. So
then it becomes up to you to like, oh, we should go change that. There's an opportunity for us. So I think, I'm optimistic that this is really slowly happening. We're going less from like figurehead, just check the boxes, to finally companies realizing, okay, it really has to be about the substance of this work, not just, tell us what 3 things to do so we can be done with diversity and everyone will stop complaining, right? Turns out they don't.
Very well said. Thank you, Jen. I think it really is an ongoing effort, and just your comment around how DE&I efforts were usually this fringe thing. Earlier in my days in recruiting, it was something that, it was just a recruiting team really talking about, and it wasn't something that the broader company was talking about. You didn't really have leaders talking about it. You didn't have people going on social media and talking about it. So I think it's just great that the conversation has started, even though there's a lot of hard times and it can be very difficult. It is a difficult space to be in. So for those of you that are DEI practitioners or trying to get involved in that space, or if you're on the receiving end of where those systems fail, just reminder to be self-compassionate, and another reminder that there are companies doing excellent with with all of that. So don't lose hope, and don't feel like you have to, stay stuck with a company that does not show up for their people. I think inclusion really is a prerequisite to hitting your diversity goals. You can't expect to attract and hire, a diverse candidate pool without first having an inclusive space. And so really measuring, for inclusion and belonging in your current org, so that, that recruiting and retention are more aligned, right? And really have it, so recruiters really should be empowered to see what's happening inside the org. I think oftentimes you'll see the recruiting function and the people operations function kind of split, and we need more conversations between those two departments within the broader, people team. I think there needs to be better alignment between talent acquisition and talent development, and those people need to be more involved in each other's spaces. Because again, that prerequisite of inclusion is really what allows for diversity to become a reality, especially as we're talking about referrals and network recruiting. And one of the issues that we come about with referrals is there is that risk of hiring the same kind of talent, which should not be a problem if you're inclusive to begin with.